that Dr. Atreya Padmabhushan, Dr. M.B. Atreya, is now here with us. A few words about Sir. Dr. Atreya has been a founder and pioneer in Indian management education. He was one of the outstanding members of the IIM faculty, much sought after by public and private enterprises as a trainer and consultant. Dr. Atreya chose management as his life mission, returned from USA with a doctorate in business administration from Harvard Business School in 1967, and brought this intellectual capital immediately to India. He is also a qualified cost accountant with an All India first and gold medals from the Institute of Cost Accountants. Dr. Atreya has served on many government policy committees. The best known is the Atreya Committee on Indian Telecom Restructuring. He was invited to be on the committee to restructure Indian Airlines, state enterprises of the J&K state, and many others. He was for 2 terms a member of the RBI committee. Dr. Atreya has spoken at many international conferences of the Apex Chambers of Commerce. He was a visiting professor at the London Business School and has helped many Indian companies globalize through increasing their overseas operations. He was the founder president of Sampradhan, the Indian Center for Philanthropy, whose mission is to create a caring and sharing society. He has been elected Fellow of the Institute of Management Consultants, National HRD Network, and others. In 2013, he was given the Lifetime Contribution Award on behalf of Thinkers 50 India, and among several other awards, he was a recipient of the Padmabhushan in 2014. Indeed, we from Aatmalaya Academy of Art and Culture, Bangalore, and on behalf of so many esteemed members of today's audience, artists and senior people from various walks of life, heartily welcome you, sir. Looking forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very nice to be here. I need to get my PowerPoint. Yeah. Rajesh?
Yes.
We need to get the PowerPoint here. Yeah. We've gone on to a different, this is the one? Right,
Yes.
excellent. Thank you. Excellent. Well, may I first of all say a very good morning or whatever time in your locations. Welcome all of you. Thank you for coming to this event on a Sunday or a late evening on Saturday or Sunday afternoon if it is Melbourne. Also to Dr. Padmaja, who has organized this event, and she is extremely hardworking, as all of you know, not only very talented in dance and teaching, but limitless energy, continuously organizing something or the other. I've been with her on several seminars on Ramarajya and its applications for governance at various levels. So she suggested this topic of values for happiness and life. We are all interested in happiness. We have to live our lives and how to live it well. And I thought that you would have read and heard about Western psychology, various kinds of values, naturally, which are relevant, some of which may overlap with what we are discussing today. But in particular, last 10, 15 years, in many public fora, I am deliberately speaking on our Sanatana Dharma, our Vedic wisdom, our ancient heritage, some of which is validated by modern research as well. So I looked at this entire heritage. Let me explain briefly the term Vedic. Many of you would be familiar, but for the younger members of the audience, the dance students in India and abroad, that this is a very great body of literature, the 4 Vedas, Rig, Yajur, Sama, Atharva Vedas, the 3 Mahakavyas, Ramayana, Mahabharata, and Bhagavatam, the 18 Puranas, several Upanishads, and commentaries and various things. Over the years, we have lost much of it due to invasions and so on. But what remains is so fantastic that one lifetime is not enough to get through all of it. So there are three components in this topic. One is the Vedas and what we can take from them. Second is the pursuit of happiness and how we can do it effectively. And third, what is the meaning of life and how to live it properly. So I give a hand to Aatmalaya Academy and Dr. Padmaja Suresh for organizing this event. So let me give you an idea of the structure of my talk. I have divided this into 8 sections. 4 appear here, 4 will be the next slide. First, let's look at what is happiness. We often use this word and we take it for granted. We have some vague understanding. Different people have different meanings for the term happiness, but is there a common consensus that we can arrive at? And what is human life as distinct from any other kind of insect, animal, non-human, subhuman life? So what is it that makes us human? And what is the responsibility we have because you're endowed with all the physical attributes of being a human being to live a better life? And the various guidelines, there are basically 6 ideas, ways in which we can achieve happiness and a good life. And I'm taking them in the next 6 slides. First is to stay in a state of Satchidananda. You will often hear that word together. Sanskrit has these compound words. Once you understand, have studied a little bit of Sanskrit, you can split them very quickly. Sat, Chit, Ananda, there are 3 components in Satchidananda. Then we have this great concept in our philosophy of life goals. A human being, a young person, need not search for what is my goal in life. You may decide the details of what course of study, what kind of profession, what job, what location. Those are matters of detail, but universal set of 4 goals are prescribed. Therefore, there's no need for identity crisis, any kind of neurosis. You see some people committing suicide in the West at a young age because of confusion and premature unhappiness. Our culture gives a clear margadarshan that there are these 4 goals that you have to pursue, called Purusharthas. Purusha does not mean a man. Purusha is also used in Sanskrit as a term for human beings in general. Arthas are the objectives of life. Then we come to, we are not actually masters of our own behavior. Although we have a brain, the manas, the mind, runs amok. You would have heard about the Vayuveg, Manoveg, the difficulty of reining back the thoughts in the mind. We are driven by the 3 gunas, Sattva, Rajas, Tamas, and it's up to us to see what mix of those gunas we develop by our Ichcha Shakti, our own willpower. All of the 3 will be present, but the proportions are under our control. Our difficulties and enemies, if you like, not only human but non-human, other kinds of enemies are not entirely outside us, they're also inside us. In the Gita and other places, Bhagavan Krishna explains, we had earlier put the title Shadripu, the 6 enemies of the human being. But I thought that's too long a list for this webinar. Therefore, in another shloka, Krishna picks these 2 as a topmost, Kama and Krodha. Kama yesha, Krodha yesha, Rajoguna samudbhava. They arise from Rajoguna. Then we have to also grow gracefully. There are many in the audience who are already in their grihasashrama or vanaprastha. This will be more useful to the youngsters who are now in the very first stage of life, which is brahmacharya. And you have to go through this and 3 more stages of life, and they can be highly enjoyable if lived properly. And finally, I would like to conclude with your permission, I've taken the liberty to think along with me and how you can use these ideas to formulate your own specific personal action plan. The items are common, but what you have to do is very particular and designed for you. So let us take up the first question. What is happiness? Sometimes in Sanskrit literature, a thing is defined first by talking about what it is not. And then gradually the picture clears and it's easier to see what is happiness. Because
Request
happiness
everyone
is,
to mute their speakers, please, except the main
yeah, there is some,
speaker. Audience, please mute your speakers.
yeah, well, I
Thank you,
think
sir. Sorry about
there's
that.
a child there making some music. So happiness is not fleeting pleasures like eating an ice cream, eating another sweet, seeing a movie, going on a holiday, being with friends, a party. Those are all there as part of life, in a moderate measure, but it is not, those pleasures are not the happiness. Some people are focused on their income, savings, wealth, investments, returns. Yeah, that is necessary, but it is not. One can be very rich and still be quite unhappy. Therefore, it does not guarantee happiness. Nowadays, there are enormous educational opportunities. Temporarily, there is problems with the virus, but in my childhood, if somebody did a bachelor's degree, BA or BCom, it was considered a high qualification. Now people can go for master's degrees, PhDs, professional qualifications, later mid-career qualifications. So there is no end to it, and there are some people who have acquired any number of degrees on the letterhead, and one wonders why and what purpose they serve. So up to a certain level, qualifications are necessary, focused in a particular field, but that also does not guarantee happiness. And we are also interested in career progression, big titles, big jobs, power, authority. They have bring some satisfaction, but they don't guarantee happiness. So what is happiness? This next slide is worth focusing on for some time. Please read it carefully. Think about each word. Make your own meaning in it. And if possible, memorize it. Happiness is satisfaction, but qualified by the word sustained. Some of our satisfaction in life is not sustainable. For example, in the 21st century, even bigger than the COVID-19, the biggest problem facing humanity and us in India, your state, your particular district, where you live, everywhere in the country, climate change is a serious problem. And in fact, even the term climate change is mild. It has been replaced by climate disaster, climate emergency. Therefore, some urgent action is required. So you have to look at how in your own life, you can be a consumer, a worker, and a citizen who lives life, does work, and consumes in a manner that is sustainable for the 7 billion people of the world as a whole. So sustained satisfaction. Some of you may have heard about the SDG, Sustainable Development Goals of the UN, 19 of them, and take a look at it, and 2 or 3 are relevant to each one of us personally. And we have to live the life, but the key issue here is there are so many options, temptations, pulls, pressures in life that how can we keep control and be the masters of our life rather than drift into the life? And that requires a balanced approach. One of the beautiful words in Sanskrit is samatva. Yoga samatva uchite is one definition. Yoga is a balanced, composed position. The other definition of yoga, yoga karma sukhaushalam. Whatever you do it well. And that's the meaning of the term well lived. You have to live a life, not just any kind of life. Whether you like it or not, time will pass. Sun will rise, sun will set, time, day will slip by, and you have to look back every day and wonder, what did I do today? And then make a plan for the next day, next week, next month, among all the choices, how to make the best choices and live a life which is, when you are 80 plus, you can look back, not with guilt, not with unhappiness, but with some satisfaction. I could have done better, of course. Nobody's life is perfect. And I have that feeling that I could have strained even more. But at least you have a feeling that it is well lived. It is 70% plus. Okay, you have avoided some serious errors and lived a life which has been a model for youngsters, students, colleagues who have come into contact with you. So during question time, you may want to come back to this slide and share your experiences and any questions that you have. Now let's take up the second question. What is life? I have qualified it deliberately with the word, what is human life? We are all human beings, and our Shastras repeatedly say that to be born as a human being is a great boon. It comes perhaps after many generations of being other pre-human life forms, probably the last one either an elephant or a vanara, and we have acquired various samskars and abilities, but being born as a human with this brain and this thinking capacity, understanding, knowledge, language which we speak just now, in my own life, I've had the opportunity not only to learn and speak English. I was in Calcutta for a few years. I can speak Bengali fluently. Of course, I speak Hindi living here. And many of you in the audience would speak Kannada, Telugu, Tamil, besides English. And I hope some of you also learn Hindi because it is mainstream associate official language of the country. Now, life is not just going from birth to death. We will all go anyway, whether we like it or not. Adi Shankara said that the only direction in which we are moving from the time we are born is towards the smashan. So we will get there. Some people will have a akala mrityu, unfortunately, by a plane crash or some disease, and we are having this, seeing this during COVID now. But if you have lived a dirghayu and then face death, that's a perfectly satisfactory situation, and one should, in fact, gracefully welcome. And there are many sayings in our culture, in our own families, you might have heard. When I was a youngster, there was still a lot of Sanskrit quotations being spoken in the family. But I think since many parents themselves don't know, the grandchildren don't get to hear about it. Anayasa maranam, vina dainyeva jivanam. Live your last years without dependence on anyone and creating difficulty for them, and die without being sick for a long time, without hearing Alzheimer's, which is coming these days. Now, life is also not just a series of achievements. Everyone's life will have some achievements. There will also be problems, inevitably. However rich, upper class, whatever inheritance you have, there will still be problems. And you will survive. You will survive many things that you fear, that this is the end of my life, you may be depressed, but you will come back out of it. So at the end of all that, what is human life? The next slide is also as important as the slide defining happiness. Please take a close look at it. Life is an opportunity. Swami Vivekananda emphasized this again and again. It's a great opportunity. Life is not a routine. It is not a burden. It is not a pleasure trip. It is an opportunity. What is it an opportunity for? For us Indians who have this great inheritance of Sanatana Dharma, the greatest opportunity of life is to uphold Dharma. In society, there are people who behave in accordance with Dharma. There are also people who ignore Dharma. There are some who are against Dharma. like Ravana, Vali, Duryodhana, at every age, every time. So you have to uphold dharma both by your own practice and by persuading, counseling, and where necessary, engaging in a dharma yudh with the adharma characters. And it is not where it is convenient. You have to uphold dharma in all contexts of life, not the easier ones, but also the more challenging ones. And at all stages of life, the 4 stages, Jivashramas that we mentioned. Yeah. So we have existence, we have to upgrade it into life, transform it into life. Mere existence, any insect, animal does it also. And the upholding of dharma is for a wider social purpose, lokasangraha, the welfare of people. This does not mean that each one of us will work on a global scale or on a national scale like Modi or Angela Merkel or other leaders. We don't even need to become secretaries to government or ministers or chief executives or the Padmabhushan dancers. Whatever our position in life, we have to work in our family, community, village, district, wherever our influence can reach, that we are a model, we are an influence for the betterment of people. For example, if some youngster takes on a climate change project to persuade people to conserve water, electricity, reduce use of single-use plastic. So there are so many steps that are possible. So you pick your own preferred action plan and implement it. So I think we should always be asking daily, monthly, this question: am I living and doing things which are conducive to upholding dharma, or either unconsciously or even, God forbid, consciously, I am coasting along, allowing and sometimes even contributing to adharma. If you look at next to climate change, one of the biggest national and global problems is inequality. And in the last 10, 20 years, the inequality has been increasing rather than coming down. You might have heard about the 1% and the 99%. The 1% of rich societies like America hold 90% plus of the wealth, and the other 99% holds the remaining 10%. Recently, there has been a worldwide protest from the killing of George Floyd, Black Lives Matter. In India, we have had Dalit Lives Matter, but still these injustices continue. Central and state governments are doing things to improve it, but they alone cannot solve the problem. So each of us have some contribution to make in a small way through Dana Dharma, various kinds of NGO schemes. And this is happening. There are good examples in the country. Some of you may be aware of the Better India site, which gives a number of examples. So you look at what are the things that you can do to uphold Dharma throughout your life. Now, to do this for our own happiness, the Ramakrishna Mission has a beautiful motto. I was in Calcutta for a total of 9 years, and I've continued to be in touch with them. I am also a devotee of Sringeri. I have listened to Swami Chinmayananda. We accept all gurus. We have a Kula Guru in our own particular mutt. The Ramakrishna Mission has a motto: how to live life, Atmano Mokshartham Jagat Hitaya Cha. Live it in a way that you eventually get moksha, release, liberation. And at the same time, it is for the good of the world. So we must take care of our life and our happiness, but also for Lokasangraha. Now, how to be in a state of happiness? Actually, our Shastras say, just like Ayurveda says, that our natural lifespan is 100 years. If some of us die earlier, it's partly because we have abused our body, not followed all the rules, done a lot of apatyam. That is why we fall short of the 100. Similarly, our philosophy says ananda, happiness, joy, bliss is our natural state, because the moment you have the brain, the thinking capacity, the knowledge capacity, you have to come and understand the Advaita, that the universal spirit is also in us. Therefore, why should we be unhappy? It is because we are not able to hold on to that state of Ananda. We drift in various ways, and you can maintain that Ananda in many ways, and in particularly two: Sat, truth. Truth in thought, word, and deed. First of all, follow it at least. Don't do anything which is wrongful, untruthful. Then control your words. That many thoughts will come. The mind is uncontrollable initially. It will. Then you exercise your filter and control the word that you speak. You may have a turbulent mind, angry mind, but you don't have to express all of it. Express what is proper, constructive, helpful to that situation, to you and to the listeners. And ultimately, the Patanjali Ashtanga Yoga, Dhyanam, meditation, is to even naturally think only good thoughts. And the mind gets attuned to it. And there is satsanga, good reading, various kinds of things that can support it. And therefore, you have to question the root, which is the thought, which expresses through word and deed. The second strategy for that Ananda is to always stay at a state of consciousness, chit. And among the four Mahavakyas, the big sentences, the most important, relevant to the individual, is to be always conscious, not in an arrogant, egoistic way, but in a self-empowered way. Aham Brahmanasmi. The four sentences, I'm sure many in the audience know this very well. Prajnanam Brahman, I am Atma Brahman, Aham Brahmasmi, and therefore Tatu Tvamasi, you are also. So treat the other person. During the COVID, worldwide, the social distancing, physical contact avoidance became important. And therefore, you might have seen that for some time, Namaste became popular, without shaking hands, without body contact. And you may have seen a video where a Christian preacher in a South African country explained during his weekly sermon that he loved this word Namaste. He asked an Indian scholar and he found out the meaning of it. The Brahman, the God in me, the divinity in me, greets the divinity in you. Namaste, that's what it means. What a beautiful philosophy and culture we have inherited. Take pride in it. You have Romaharsh. If you do this, then we will go back and stay in our original state, which is Ananda, bliss at all times. So we cannot permanently stay in it. This is the play of the mind, Prakriti, Maya. We will keep on drifting out of it, but we have to have the control, pull it back. And gradually, the oscillations will become less and less. Then we take the 4 life goals. And the great thing about our literature, going back to the earliest Rig Veda, wherever you see these 4 Purusharthas, you will see them stated only in this order and in no other order. It's fantastic. There is no writer, no philosopher has felt the need to question this, reverse this. The materialists, the atheists may change it, but this is the prescribed order, a normative model. If we follow, we are not doing a favor to somebody else. This is the best way to live one's life. But generally, human beings, having come from the animal background, are still not fully human. And in various ways, we are a certain percentage of subhuman. And it varies, the proportion varies. And the more human we become, the more control we will have. But the majority of people live their life driven by the desires, kama. The desires may be of various kinds, not just sex. The West has overplayed the Kama Sutra, but even the desire for food, shelter, clothes, fashion, unending amount of accumulation, the house overflowing with clothes, shoes, and the matching of dress. So there's no end. And economics recognizes this. There will always be a scarcity of resources compared to the wants. That is how marketing business thrives. So we are driven by karma. In order to meet those desires, we can either steal, we can inherit, but inherited wealth spent on karma will fizzle out. Though we have to earn, so we go for wealth. And most people's lives are stuck in these two: earn money and consume. Physical joy, mental joy, pride, ego, ahankar, various kinds of things. But these two are very dangerous if pursued without any kind of control and regulation. So dharma is the one that should guide this. For example, I always draw two simple implications for this. If we just remember these two, it's a good start. When you are dealing with wealth, earning it, spending it, ask only one question: am I earning the wealth through dharmic methods, fair methods, and am I spending it in wholesome dharmic way or in injurious way? For example, one can have alcohol, drugs, cigarettes. Very sadly, I've seen some Indian families who are very happy, but one child in some hostel getting onto the drug habit and severely suffering, even dying prematurely, is a cloud over the whole family. And similarly, desires, you ask this question, is the desire consuming me, or am I consuming something within limits, with control? Who is driving your life? Are you driving it, or your karma is driving it? In the majority of cases, our karma is driving our life. And some wisdom comes to us, little late in life, better late than never, but earlier the better. And therefore, I hope that this talk and the discussion and the further discussions you may have amongst yourselves in the family, in your school, will help you to internalize these four objectives in this order. There comes a time in life, after you've had children, grandchildren, that you begin to tire of the desires and the enjoyment and the wealth. And you gradually start dropping them. They leave you. And the thought is more towards moksha, liberation. That's an abstruse topic. We can debate it. That is eventually go beyond this samsara life of sukham and dukkham, ups and downs. And one feels the satisfaction that I've seen it all. Now I want to merge with the divinity. So that's something that you may come to later in your lives. Okay.
Otherwise, you are looking down.
Oh, I have to see my...
Okay.
All right. But in pursuing dharma, there will always be some difficulties. Many people argue against dharma and want to avoid it by citing these kinds of conflicts in dharma. And you will have two different pulls. But wherever dharma sankars arise, there is a very simple rule. You cannot avoid dharma. You cannot use it as an excuse to give up dharma. You follow the higher of the two dharmas. And it may be hard. You have to give up one. For example, in a recent program with some executives, there was an opportunity for them to go and do a one-year diploma, and the company will give them leave, and it'll absorb them when they come back. In one case, the executive said that he wanted to go, but his wife and children felt that it was not that great, and what would they do without him? Children were in class 10, 12, crucial stage. He needed to be there. So he said, whichever dharma I follow, I will fail in the other dharma. So my answer there was that discuss it with them and together arrive at a consensus that you will keep in touch during the period you will come home from vacations. This will improve their lot through your career in the future. And if you arrive at a consensus and you come, then you have resolved the dharma sankar. Now, sometimes people engage in kutarkam. Vidandavadam, wrong kind of argument. One of these I've heard repeatedly is about Vali, how Rama shot him from the back. So there are two dharmas, Rama's dharma to the right kind of warfare, and also his dharma of protecting Sugriva and getting his wife back to him. And Vali got a boon from some deity or the other that he cannot be shot in the front. So under those conditions, Rama's action was the perfect dharma. I also hear a lot of arguments about Karna in the Mahabharata, or Bhishma, or Dronacharya. So at the end of the day, it is a dharma test, and all these things can be explained as dharma sankats, which have a solution. Now, then I come to the gunas, the behavioral tendencies, characteristics. You may have heard about it. The most desirable, which justifies our human birth, is to stay at a level of sattva. It shows positivity, and the person always asks why it can be done rather than why it cannot be done. He brings harmony among conflict and argument. His mind shows clarity among confusion. Then comes the second category, which is probably the largest, especially at a younger age, rajasic behavior, restless, argumentative, passionate, but shifting passions, and passion clouding the mind and clear judgment. And a certain category of people show a dominance of tamas, which is negative, inactive, dull. We can take your daily routine and apply these three gunas, and you can check for yourself whether a young boy or a girl going to school or college, or a young executive, man or woman going to office or school or hospital where they work. First thing in the morning, do you have a regular time of getting up? Do you have an alarm? Do you get up at least before 6, preferably 5, 5:30, or different times on different days? Then once the alarm is rung or you're woken up, how much time does it take to get out of the bed? What thoughts pass in the mind? Do you pray a little bit, thank God for another day? Think about the day's work, important things that you have to do. Or you are restless, you are already cursing that you have to wake up, you have these wretched classes to attend, or this difficult job to do, cursing. And then you come down, getting ready to catch the school bus or the office transport, whatever, perpetually late, engaged at breakfast time, meal times in arguments, and showing particular passion like seeing a movie or listening to some noisy music and pursuing it, and nowadays cell phone independent of difficulty for other people. And the third category of person who doesn't want to get up from the bed, keeps on rolling, has coffee, tea, listless, looking at newspapers, throwing the books into the school bag or the tiffin box, etc., into the office bag, and not engaging the mind, not engaging the brain, not utilizing the full potential. A tamasic person is not a fool. There may be high latent IQ, and that person has, with help of others and oneself, activate. So the broad guideline here is there will be tamas from time to time, it will increase. Minimize your tamas. Rajas is good up to a point, energy, anger, all these are good. You have to transform that anger into a positive, constructive, sattvic action. So Shanta Rajasam, pacified Rajas is good. Therefore, we increase the sattvic power by bringing the energy of Rajas into it and don't lose it in tamasic behavior. I mentioned in the contents page about the two enemies. Arjuna asks Krishna at the one stage, Ata kena prayuktoyam papam jarati purushara, anichanna pivarshneya, baladiva niyojita. Why does man or woman, boy or girl, commit mistakes, although they know very well, they're intelligent? In the heart of hearts, they should not do it. So Krishna gives an answer, Kamayesha, Krodayesha, Rajo Guna Samudbhava. They come from that Rajoguna, which doesn't allow the brain to function fully. So the solution here is, every time you want to pursue some karma, ask the question, is it against dharma? Dharma aviruddha karma. Now, you may think that eating another ice cream, eating another sweet, slight overeating is not against, but let me tell you, you have a personal dharma. Each one of us has a Vyakti dharma. We can ask one simple question, to whom does your body belong? The correct answer is, the body does not belong to you. It does not also belong to your parents. You are not the owner, but you are a trustee of your body. So in your Bhakti Dharma, you have Sharira Dharma. You must keep this body as a good, healthy instrument to grow through life, do many good things in life, leave behind a memory, help many people. Therefore, Sharira Dharma, Swastha Dharma is your first Dharma. So nowadays you see many articles in the newspapers about nutritious diet and regular exercise and meditation. These three things for sustained good health. So every time you are, for example, a new set of diseases are rising called lifestyle diseases, and one of these is juvenile diabetes at very young age. Therefore, you have to have control on sugar. Let me suggest a small experiment, even to the seniors there. Try and reduce two things in your diet. If you're taking 2 spoons of sugar in your coffee or tea, make it 1, make it half, give up over a period of time. We Indians consume 3 times the amount of salt which is required for the human body. So reduce salt, keep salt on the table, but in cooking, reduce it. Those who desperately need it, cannot control, will take more salt. So I generally, for many years now, have coffee, tea without sugar. And of course, my elder brother has given up even coffee, he has only milk. I may get there sometime. And also, I prefer boiled vegetables. And there is enough taste in rasam or sambar. The second weakness you have to control is anger. Kobam papam chandalam is a proverb you have heard about. In anger, people do many things. They throw things, they injure the child or each other. And very often in the newspapers, you read about even unintended murder with regrets and sadness later. So conquer your rajas first. That will help you to control the anger. Because in anger, you speak and act first and think later. In sattva, you think first and then control your words in anger. So these two enemies are, you cannot complain against anybody. There are no external alibis for you. You are entirely responsible for controlling your karma and krodha. And if somebody else is throwing their krodha at you, gradually counsel them, push it back, don't accept it, and you have to be both a self-changer as well as a change agent. So let's wish you all the very best, the younger people. You will do very well in your exams, in your jobs and so on. You will get married in due time, live a happy life, bring up children and grandchildren, look back with satisfaction. If you do this, go through these four stages, that at the stage of brahmacharya, studenthood, totally concentrate on knowledge. And broadly, our Shastras divide knowledge into 2 parts, Paravidya and Aparavidya. Not only learn your textbook subject like engineering, medicine, mathematics, management, accounting, law, whatever you are studying, but also acquire some Vedic philosophical knowledge, some prayer, prarthana, various kinds of shlokas, subhashitam, which are extremely meaningful, that you cannot live your life with your mind alone, with your brain alone. What you need is to develop your buddhi, which is wisdom, judgment, and the buddhi is the one which has to control the mind. If you strengthen the mind and have a weak buddhi, you are a loose cannon. You are a danger to yourself, the family, and the organization. Second is that the moment you get married, think deeply. Even during the marriage function, we all go through it mechanically without understanding it. Nowadays, there are people who put out good texts explaining the meaning of the Hindu marriage. I think the Kashiyatra, the Panigrahanam, Kanyadanam, Saptapati, each one of these have a profound meaning. And if you understand that and think about it, your marriage will be stable. I think the divorce rate is rising. The films and newspapers make it interesting. And I confront adult audiences, very senior, powerful, wealthy officials, executives, by saying that all this looks nice to you, affairs and so on, until it happens to you. Then it's very painful. So don't do that. I think sustained Ekapatnivada, like Rama, marriage, through thick and thin, ups and downs, is the most optimal strategy from a management and a mathematical point of view. If it is extremely bad, occasionally one may look at other solutions, but the two parties should invest in the marriage and not keep on expecting only returns, but invest first and reap the returns later. And then at some stage, and many of us in the audience, including myself, we are at an elderly stage. We are in a vanaprastha. We are 1 foot towards the forest. The ancient idea of retreating. But even within we can now experience grihastha vanaprastha and even grihastha sannyasa, an elder. And there are many issues around being an elder, physical, mental disability, arguments, advice, interference. I think we need to avoid all these and live. There is a beautiful expression, Padmapatram ivambasa, like water on a lotus leaf. Let the next generation live their lives. If they seek advice, if they need help, we give it. But the moment they are again self-sufficient, we withdraw. We engage in other things like spiritual, social service, and so on. So I conclude with the action plan, and I look forward to your comments and questions. So one, you can say, I will live life always in a state of Sachidananda. I'll try. It may not be 100%, but I'll realize here is a model. I will slide from it. I may sometimes slide for weeks, but suddenly the insight will come and I'll go back to Sachidananda. Second, I will pursue Kaushalam, yoga, excellence in my studies, not stop with the studies. After getting a job, not relax. Also in career, be excellent, outstanding. And if you do along with your career as well as later social work, do it. In fact, the motivation is highest in social work. In many NGOs and sanstha's, you can find that people are working even harder than when they were working for money. Let me particularly address the youngsters. We all begin life as karmachari. What is a karmachari? We work only in the strong hope that at the end of the month we will get a salary. And we'll get every year an increment. We will get bonus. We will get stock options. But gradually you will realize these will all come to you anyway if you do good work. So try to evolve from a karmachari to a higher status, which is a karma yogi, who does good karma, but without anxiety about the rewards, but with excellence in mind and belief that there will be dharma, justice in the organization. Third, always put dharma my dharma before my artha and kama. So your context, particular kind of dharma sankats that arise before you, and you give priority to dharma wherever there is dharma sankat, have less wealth, but the satisfaction of dharma, little less, 5%, 10% less, heavens won't fall. And likewise, give up some kama, if it is not dharmic, that strengthens your willpower to follow dharma. It also protects you from physical and psychological harm that may happen from excessive consumption. Develop a sattvic personality. I think we can broadly classify by observing for a few days people as sattvic, rajasic, or tamasic personality. That means that this is a dominant characteristic. They have the other two gunas also, but the proportion of this is the highest. So you have to take charge of your life. Often you become a rajasic personality, not because you want to, but others make you do that. You look at some other people who are rajasic, they appear to be effective, they appear to be more successful, then you copy and you become. Then they will have a fall. They will realize at some point. So our Shastras allow for human failures and learning. There are two very important concepts. Don't feel justified in everything that you do. There are times when you must experience genuine paschatapam, regret that I did something wrong. And when you feel that it was a serious thing that you did wrong, with that paschatapam, don't stop there and do some prayashchitam for it. Not just a puja prayashchitam, but something tangible that person to whom you have done injustice will appreciate as a compensation. This is the way you avoid enemies and you convert enemies into friends. So it is not a weakness to feel paschatapam. It is not surrender to do prayashchitam. It is in fact a sign of strength. Gandhiji showed all his life. I will control my kama and krodha. Only you can. Nobody else can control it for you. And you will control for some time, but they are too powerful. You will fail. They'll come out. You don't give up. Come back, and then they will become subservient to you, and you will be the master. And be aware that life is long. Life is a marathon race. It is not in a hurry. You cannot sprint. It is not 100 meters, 400 meters. You have to have stamina, commitment, willpower to go through each ashrama in a graceful, orderly manner. So I hope this is of interest to you. I complete my presentation here. Thank you. We can go back to any of these slides and see them.